Hey guys, it's Ben. Thanks for watching this video and welcome to my channel. Today I want to introduce you to a new video series I want to make, which is about developing applications with the Cluu platform. The Cluu platform is a digitization platform that is being used to host many different kinds of applications that connect all the company data and can be used at a larger scale within a company. So you can imagine that a company usually has a wide variety of different systems. For example, one system to attend to all the personnel matters, one system to manage customers, one system to manage assets, and so on. Cluu strives to unify all of these systems, but it's flexible enough so that you can only interconnect some parts of your system landscape or integrate existing parts within your system landscape. So from this point of view, it is a very, very flexible system. And now I want to introduce the application development with Cluu to you in a video series that is going to span across multiple videos where I introduce the concepts of Cluu, how to model applications using the Cluu platform directly, and also how to implement custom business logic and create custom UI components so that you can give your users the best user experience possible. Cluu, in a sense, is a powerful platform that has been growing throughout the years. It's been uh, the development of Cluu started in 2014, but it has a predecessor that has been developed at a large sports car manufacturer that is located in Stuttgart, Germany. And that history even goes back to the early 2000s, right? Yeah, so I hope you're looking forward to learning how to develop applications with Cluu. I'm going to take you step by step through how to develop the applications. But first, I want to introduce the concepts of Cluu to you. So maybe let's have a look at the company webpage that develops the platform. The platform Cluu is developed by the company Softwarehelden. The company Softwarehelden has been founded in the year 2014. Here you can see the different kinds of use cases that Cluu can be used on. It can be installed or used from the desktop. It can be used from laptops, from tablet devices, and mobile devices. This is due to the fact that Cluu itself is a web-based application and it acts as a host for different applications that can be run on it, right? The applications are modeled within Cluu in a generic way. So you can specify classes that you want to display and connect these classes to your databases. You can also integrate existing databases to your system. Cluu does have a very powerful backbone, which basically is the core of it. It handles all the data access. It comes with its own query language, an SDK to access data. It also has a security layer, so um, a role and group-based security system that you can put on top of the data that is trying to being accessed, as well as the functions that come with your application. The Cluu backbone has the capability to connect to different data sources, for instance, MS SQL Server, Oracle Server, NoSQL servers, REST APIs, and so on. In the past, we've made a lot of different and a wide variety of integrations with Cluu for our customers. The application model itself is modeled within Cluu, right? And it's stored within the metadata repository of Cluu. This is also where you are going to put your application, all the classes that you specify, the relationships, how they integrate with different applications, and so on. Well, so Clue itself is the basic platform that hosts all these applications and provides this integration technology. And then there's also a mobile version of Clue that can be run on dedicated devices, Windows machines mainly, that are capable of running Clue itself. These mobile clients can then use a synchronization mechanism that we've developed to synchronize data from the client to the server and back. So they are completely independent of an internet connection. You don't need one, and this is especially useful for use cases where there's bad internet, right? So our customers mainly come from the automotive sector, and we are operating within the area of validation and verification. And these validations are often done in remote areas that have no internet connection at all. So this is a nice solution for these kinds of users. Then Clue also comes with a Studio application and an SDK. Our Clue Studio app can be used to model all these classes using a low code, no code approach. And basically, if the simple CRUD operations and functions that Clue provides to you are enough, you don't need to write any lines of code and connect all your existing data. Some systems, like sending emails, notifying users, and so on, even work without writing code. Oftentimes, your workflows are quite specific. To match them optimally, you would have to create one or two functions to support your processes optimally. And of course, the platform itself would not be interesting for most users if there weren't applications already that are enterprise ready and cloud ready. So we have a wide variety of different applications. As I said, our main focus is on the automotive sector, but we do not want to limit ourselves to the sector alone. For instance, we have an application order management where we manage all of our own orders. So when we get orders or do quotations and so on, this is all managed within the order management. We also have a meeting management where we document all the meetings, connect project tasks and issues for products and so on, as well as a dashboard management that is able to put out rich dashboards. So this is basically based on a third party library called DevExpress and highly integrated within Clue. So basically you can just design dashboards within Clue directly. A data archive called file management that is used for storing large amounts of data and making them searchable, queryable, and so on. Data logging, and many, many more. I won't go through all of them in detail. So just keep in mind that this platform already provides a wide variety of different applications and is used by a lot of customers already. Now that we've looked at Clue, let's have a look at the architecture of Clue directly. Let me just have a look. So we have an operations manual in our portal. So we do have a customer portal where we put all of our documentations and also provide the installation files to Clue and our applications, and host an application store that you can publish your own applications to, so that customers can directly install those applications onto their Clue platforms. Clue can be run on different kinds of setups. With Cluu 6, we made it so that it can be hosted cloud natively on Docker containers and in Kubernetes clusters and so on. So it's compatible with Linux by now. There are some applications that we've developed that are specific to Windows, but overall, the platform itself can fully be hosted on Linux systems. We have an architecture overview. Cluu itself, in the sixth version of it, consists of different services. We have the Cluu frontend service, which basically provides the data to the client, and also a web interface in form of a single page application that has been programmed using our own component libraries. Then we have the Cluu backbone. I've already talked about this before. Maybe one thing worth mentioning at this point is that the single page application is developed using JavaScript. We ourselves use TypeScript to create all the modules and less, but it's also possible to use JavaScript directly as well as cascading style sheets. Cluu has a plugin framework where you can provide your own modules, components, and so on. You simply need to register them within your application. There's also an identity service that manages all the user authentication and is also used internally by the Cluu backbone and the front end, and a messaging service that is used for asynchronous communication between all the different services. So this is kind of a little bit more advanced. Maybe we will go into this in detail at a later point in time. But first, we are going to have a look at application development itself. And then there's a setup service as well that basically manages the installation of Cluu application packages. So Cluu application package contains all the relevant data of a Cluu application within your platform. The installations are all managed by this setup service, and you can see which application has been updated when and so on. The front end is structured like this. There are different controller actions from Cluu that basically provide the data, the resources, the authentication, and so on. And the single page application is being loaded at the start, and then asynchronously loads all the components and modules that need to be rendered and gets the data and the metadata from the controllers. Then we have different apps that are being hosted within the UI as well. They also come with their own UI actions, controls, renderers, dialogues, and so on. It's a very flexible system in a sense. Then we have the backbone. The backbone has a couple of basic API endpoints that are used to query data using our Cluu query language syntax, as well as updating and inserting and deleting data and so on. And of course, to invoke business logic. So we call them Cluu actions that are being hosted within your backend application packages. And these are registered with the Cluu platform and can be called using REST calls. So you can see this from here, right? Additionally, you can implement your own authentication handlers, but this is also a very advanced thing to do. And then we have the Cluu actions and also event handlers. So when data in the system is being updated, your application can listen to these updates and then start an event based on this, which is really nice. The technology stack of Cluu currently is .NET 6 as the runtime environment. The backend and the front end are all written in C#, except for the single page application, of course. It can be run on Windows and Linux, and the web server being used is Kestrel. So For Cluu itself, you need to have a Microsoft SQL server, but for applications, you can also use other databases, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and so on. We do use the MSDTC to manage the transactions that span different data sources. So one nice thing about Cluu is that you can query data through different databases that you have. This is something that not many systems can do easily. And since the databases are connected generically, Cluu can resolve this automatically. So there's one more thing I need to say. The endpoints use TLS 1.2 at the moment. During the installation, we will have a look at that later. There might be a problem if you are using Windows 11, but we are going to handle that problem as well. So this right here is everything that is being used within Cluu. The best compatible browsers are Chrome and Safari and well tested. Cluu itself follows a design guide, which is material design. In case you haven't noticed, what we are going through right now is the documentation management from Cluu. So this portal is actually a Cluu as well, and it's our older version Cluu 5. So we are going to upgrade that. So this is version 5.8.6. But we are going to work with Cluu 6, which has many nice upgrades for developers as well. The architecture looks like this. So you basically have a SQL database, the backbone service connects to it, as well as the setup service that needs to update the schemas and so on. And the front end service connects to a shared storage, the backbone, the message service, as well as the identity service, right? For the authentication, of course. Yeah, so this is a basic setup. All these components with Cluu 6 can be scaled horizontally. The front-end service has already been tested behind load balancers, API gateways, and so on. Well, that's basically it from an architecture point of view. So maybe we can go into the installation now. So I did an additional test on how to install Cluu. In order to install Cluu and work with Cluu, you need a license from Softwarehelden. There's a possibility to test with evaluation licenses if you are just trying to start out. If you have a license, you can go to our file management application that has the files for Cluu 6. You will have to, well, it is possible to work without our build scripts, but I recommend that you download these as well as the Cluu framework 6.0.6 or whatever is the current version when you are working with it. This right here will contain the Cluu setup as well as NuGet packages to develop with Cluu. I've downloaded it here, and this is basically the contents. So you're going to have to run the Cluu licensing tool right here. And then with this licensing tool, you are going to get a license. It is also possible to connect to the portal license server, then you do not need to run the licensing tool. Then, additionally, there is the setup for Cluu 6, and for backwards compatibility, a backbone service for Cluu version 5 and all the NuGet packages that are relevant for developing applications with Cluu. So this is nice. Once you have that downloaded, you will need to set up a database first, actually, to work with Cluu. So I've done this. Maybe we open the setup first and then have a look at that as well. So I'm gonna explain some of the things that need to be done. This is the Cluu setup. I've already preloaded my configuration, but I'm going to go through everything. I'm gonna install it using the English culture. By default, it's preset to German. I've also set up an administrator password, which you will have to do as well. Then here, if you're just testing and you're not creating a production version, then just use localhost as the name. And you will have different ports right here for the Cluu service. I need to make a correction about the internal service endpoints and their bindings. So you actually need to put them on the loopback address because they are being exposed using the reverse proxy, the Cluu service, right? The error that I made was that I did not use the correct command to generate the certificate, which basically led to an incompatible certificate with Windows 11. All right, there is a different command. I'm just gonna pop it up here so you can see it and copy it. So use this command instead to create the certificate and ignore the other statements throughout the video about changing the binding address as well as the other certificate. All right, thanks. I'm using for Cluu version 6 the port 12060. You can use what you want to. And then we get to one thing. So I'm on Windows 11 right now. On Windows 10, self-signed certificate installed by Cluu does work. All right, this works. But if you're on Windows 11, then it won't work. So what you will have to do is, let's have a look. Yeah, right here. So you will have to use this command and then this command after that, right here, which will basically create a new localhost certificate that can be used to make a secure connection for your Cluu instance. Then you can open the certificate store by typing mmc.exe, run it as an administrator, and then Control M or add snap-in, choose certificate and the computer account. So I'm sorry, I'm on German here, but yeah. So this should look similar to yours. Once you've created your certificate, it should be your computer's name. So you just copy it right here and put it into the trusted certificate store as well with paste. I've already done this right here. And if everything works properly, then when you open it, it says it's a valid certificate. For a production load, you of course would need a real certificate. So I do not have to change this anymore. So if you have created your certificate and open the setup, this should pop up right here. Otherwise, it may not be a trusted certificate. Then please check again that it's in the trusted certificate store as well. Additionally, every service that is being run by Cluu needs a user account. For development purposes, the usual thing to do is just leave this at network service. So these network services, they need to be able to access the certificate from your store. So what you have to do is right-click your certificate in your own store, go to all tasks, manage private keys, and then add network service to the list of users and allow it to read the private key of your newly created certificate. Yeah, if Cluu installs the certificate, you don't need to do anything, but if you have created it your own, then you will have to do this. Okay, so this is my destination folder. I'm gonna keep it at that. Please change all the ports as you like. Be careful. Initially, this is set to this local host. In order for this to work, the DNS name of your certificate must include this as well. So I'm going to put this on all unassigned, right? And then it works. The front-end service, I'm using this port. Maybe one additional note right here. The backbone and the front end come with worker identities that are used internally. And when you write business logic, you can use these worker identities as well to run full trust operations. For instance, in event handlers that want to do some system functions when a user changes something, right? Yeah, so you can change this as well. You can create a user with password or domain user, and you have different kinds of possibilities here. The identity service has two endpoints, one for certificate authentication and one for the normal service endpoint. You can change the ports here as well. And you can specify how long the token lifetime is when the user is being authenticated. Then the setup service, I've left that at network service, except for the port, probably don't change anything, then it should be fine. Now we come to an interesting part. So Cluu initially wants to connect to a database. And the server for me is a SQL developer instance, which is hosted at the localhost location. This could also be my desktop name. I've taken the liberty and already created the database. Let's just go with Windows authentication. My user is an administrator. I've created a database called Cluu. One important property when creating this database is that you set the option is read committed snapshot on to true, which is initially not the case. Once you do this, you shouldn't have any problems with deadlocking during transactions when handling events and so on, which can be a real problem. Well, yeah. So additionally, what the server doesn't have is access or the network service that is being used by the Cluu backbone as a user that is allowed to access the Cluu database. So you will need to add this login to your server. I have it right here. And you will have to make it DDL admin, but when you're developing an own machine, you can just make this user the database owner of your Cluu database, right? Maybe put the Cluu database on an SSD drive as well, so that the system reacts fast. In the end, you will get this overview right here, which states all the different things that you've been setting up. There's one more thing that you need to provide when trying to connect with Cluu. So Cluu 6 uses TLS connections to connect to the database. So the data on the path between Cluu and database is protected as well. And you have two options. You either set this up, we are describing it in our manual right here. So you will have to set up a certificate, allow the server to access the certificate and set it up and so on. Then this is a proper version. For development purposes, it may be easier to just set the option trust server certificate equals to true. But remember that on production nodes, it is better to actually set up the proper certificate. All right. Once everything is finished, you just hit install and then Cluu will install. Maybe while it installs, I Also want to mention that Cluu has some prerequisites, so we can have a look at that as well. So you will have to have the .NET runtime as well as the ASP.NET Core runtime and .NET Desktop runtime with at least version 6.0.2. Be careful, having version 7 will not work. You will have to have version 6, all right? There are additional remarks for the prerequisites and so on, but if you followed my installation, Cluu should have been installed properly. And if you remember the port, it should be available at localhost 2060. 12060. Yeah. I've set up a username and password. And now we're in Cluu already. So this is the English version. As you've seen, I've set the language to English. And this is kind of a bare minimum version right now. In the next video, we are going to have a look at how to install applications to Cluu. And after that, we are going to have a look at how to model applications ourselves. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for the next video.